Yes. And we are back. It's 3-3.
And this match is maybe a little slow. They're going to go ahead and institute the shot clock. What is the shot clock, you may ask? Well, yes, there's a shotgun involved, and if you don't shoot in time, you get shot. They have a 30-second shot clock, and so that means in between shots, you have 30 seconds to move from shot to shot. And at 20 seconds, if you are not, like, down on your shot, then you will get a warning that you have 10 seconds left. And if you're down on the shot, then it's good. You won't get a warning as long as you shoot. If you're down on the shot at 20 seconds, and then you get back up to rechalk or rethink, then you'll get the 10-second warning. You don't usually. You get one extension a game. If it ends up, which is another 30 seconds. So if you're in a tough spot, you can call an extension, get an extra 30 seconds. You get one per game. If this match goes hill-hill, on the hill-hill game, you get 2 extensions.
Okay.
You don't usually see a player awarded ball in hand for a time extension, but it's up to the referee. The referee can certainly, if there's a violation of the shot clock, he can award ball in hand to the other player. So that is the possibility, but definitely right now both players are playing fast.
That's so close.
Just missed that. Or also, I don't know if I want to say this because it makes the establishment sound questionable, but it's a business here. It's Saturday night. They can make, a lot of money on these tables. A lot of people come, so, it's ideal if we can finish up and be out of here in time for the evening crowd to come in and enjoy what the parlor has to offer. Kathy needs to get all the way down table and back, and these tables are playing a little slow, so you see it's like they lose speed on the rail there. To me, it's like the felt has a fine speed. It's just when the rail gets involved, it dies. And
she went for the safe.
I think she got it. No. Yeah, I think she's playing safe. I think she got it. Or I don't know, she might have been going for it, but I suspect she was playing safe. Look at that, she may have made that ball. If it wasn't for the slow rails.
Oh, she scratched.
Well, it was a good hit. It's about the worst thing. If she hadn't scratched there, she might have... Seems to be some discussion here. I'm not sure what the discussion is. Oh, okay. That's 2 consecutive fouls. We're on 2 fouls, and she had a letter number on 2 fouls. There is the 3-foul rule for those of you at home. I'm sure if you can make your opponent foul in 3 consecutive turns at the table, that would be a loss of game. And they don't always play a 3-foul rule. And perhaps the NWPA does, but when you're playing 9-ball, that's something you need to ask if the 3-foul rule is in effect. Not every place plays with that rule. So at some point here, she may have been playing a 2-way shot. I think she was probably trying to put the 7 on the bottom rail, would be my guess. There's no reason Jessica should foul here. She can see the 7, but if she was to foul, then that would be a loss of game because she's on 2 fouls. Jessica went for the shot. Ooh, she gave it a real nice effort.
Yeah, she did.
She didn't leave it easy. She left it pretty tough. So Kathy is going ahead and looking at cutting this 7 down table. Nice and thin. It's another shot. If you hit it at normal, natural speed, you might not be good on the 8 ball. She would have been fine. I think she made that. Oh, there's the owner, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Let's see if Jessica chooses to follow. And she's on the 9 ball.
Do you think the shot clock's making them nervous?
I don't know.
They're kind of missing a little more.
They are. I mean, they're definitely playing faster. And that was you know, it's a shot that Jessica expects to make, but that was certainly a missable shot. You certainly, I mean, you want to play at a comfortable rhythm, but you don't want to let yourself get rattled by, you know, the thought of the shot clock.
I got put on a shot clock once, and it is, it's a little unnerving, especially when you are left with a tough shot.
Yeah.
If you need that extra time.
I know, I also compete in the APA and in their city tournaments and stuff.
20 seconds.
Yeah, our team
20 seconds.
has been put on the shot. Certain players on my team have been put on the shot clock
Can I
more
guess?
than one. Sure, yeah.
I won't. I have a good idea though.
Yeah, probably.
She's gotten a lot better.
Yep, she has. Her husband can be very deliberate also.
Oh, really?
Yes. I don't know if you've had a chance to see him play at all,
We
but
played Scotch one time. It was
You
we were
had?
partners, yeah. Against,
fun. You know,
yeah, it was just fun.
yeah, it's like maybe Danny or something. Yeah, okay. Yeah, those could be some long APA matches there. I hope he's not listening. If you're listening, I love you, man. He's my boss, so I gotta be nice to him. He might, you gotta be nice to your boss.
You have to?
Well, he's my boss. I don't want to be talking bad about him.
It's true.
I mean, there's no useful reason for me to be at the company other than pool, so, you know. Yeah, and it was a shot that was, you know, it was a good time to take the extension.
Kathy just did. So that puts Jessica up 4-3.
4-3, and it is, I believe, Kathy's break.
Voice in the Sky is on it today. You didn't wear your Leo shirt.
Oh, I forgot about the Leo shirt. When we were, I guess I could tell the story. When we were in Lincoln City, Angela and I playing in the Scotch Doubles
Finals
Masters finals. A friend of mine, probably a friend of Angela's too, a guy named Dumo Cray, he owns a little shirt business, and so he came over and he wanted us to wear his shirts, and so then I actually had on this shirt, my lucky shirt, that I had won men's Open A singles in. So I had that shirt on, but Dumo was like, hey, you mind wearing our shirts? So both Angela and I, we got they're hustling wear. We got a couple of hustling shirts and we wore those. So I had to take my shirt off and I left it behind the commentator stand area, just thinking I'm going to be there probably later anyway and I'll get it back. And I forgot it, and I forgot it that night. It must have been because we won. I was so elated that we won and we were going to go out to dinner.
Yeah.
So I thought, well, it's not that big a deal. I'm sure, one of the girls at the commentary place will pick it up for me, or I'll just come in tomorrow and get it. And so the next day, I see Annie bounce. Like, she's practically just walking into the main entrance of the main room. And before she even gets back to the comment, I see that she has my shirt on. And, yeah, she flashed me the shirt, and I kind of knew at that point I wasn't going to get that shirt back, I think, at this point.
I just got my shirt back like a week ago. She said she did not want to give mine back either, but
I didn't realize you lost yours, too.
I did.
We have
Do you have
groupies.
any groupies?
Groupies, I have a groupie, and that's Annie.
Groupies.
Annie is my groupie. I let her keep that shirt. It's something for her to remember a special moment of wearing Leo's clothes, I guess. I don't know. Reminds her to get down on the shot,
And you
because
need
I
to
get
wear
down
that
on
shirt
the
on
shot.
Wednesday. And
Is she playing Wednesday?
Yes, she is.
Yeah. Very good. Wear it with pride. It's a fine shirt. It's not
Yes, she
flashy
is.
or anything. It's a nice little button-up shirt.
Jessica just played nice safe with ball in hand.
Yes, she did. And I totally expect she's going to get a jump cue here. Yeah, she's got a jump cue here.
I don't remember you jumping, do you jump?
Jumping is probably not the strongest part of my game. Although those tables in Atlantic City, they're really pretty easy to jump on. But usually I do a few jumps throughout the week. Probably not more than a few. I don't remember getting it out.
That's why I said I don't remember you jumping at all.
Yeah, I think
Was I that good of a partner?
You were. I think maybe in singles I had to get the jump cue out, but it's not uncommon in singles when people play safes.
Is there argument about foul?
Oh God, tonight. So she hit the 6 ball on the way over the 6. So this is ball in hand for Jessica. Yeah, I didn't have to get my jump cue out. I don't think it's Scotch doubles, not until singles and teams. She hit that a little thin. She wants it to. She got a little bit of roll there, made the 8.
I think the shot clock's throwing.
Well, yeah.
They were playing better earlier, ball for ball, making making their shots.
Yeah, the shot clock is something that you have to learn to deal with. Yeah, she's squinting a lot. I think she was trying to make the 3. I think she was trying to send the cue ball into the 3 there. Now she's stuck with the same cut shot she had before. She put a little spin on that. That might have caused her to hit that just a little thinner than she meant to. There's a chance for Kathy here. So the 4 doesn't go, I don't think it goes by the 5-6. And so that means that she has to make the most of this angle here. She's going to shoot the 5 into a different pocket. And, she's got the 9 ball there. She has to miss the 9 ball. She missed the 9.
Missed the 9.
But
it's the draw thing.
yeah, it's like when you decide you're going to draw a ball over, you just got to overhit it. If you overhit it, hit it too hard, then you might end up where you want to be. But,
that's usually not my issue.
This is makeable here. She may be going for this, or she may be going for a safe. But it's thin, but it's makeable. Yeah, I think she went for a safe there. Yeah, that's a good shot.
That was a good shot.
However,
Jessica should play her jump stick.
yeah, the hard part here is gonna is going to be able to clear the 6 and keep the cue ball on the table where it'll hit the 5. Because it's going to want to bounce over the 5. Yeah, that's a good idea. Well, this could work. That's not, can't tell if 5 goes 5 and 9. Let's see how Kathy plays this. If Kathy has to shoot the 5 on the side, there's nothing easy about this.
6 doesn't go by the 7, does it?
I don't think so. So it went by there. Well, I don't think it does, but I'm just looking at the camera. We'll see what she does. She may be shooting the combo. Now she's looking at the combo. Boy, she didn't want to get tied up. So she's got a shot here. That was a nice shot in combo. Doesn't look like she has a lot of angle here. She doesn't want to double hit the cue ball. That would be a foul. So she's going to be forced to jack up a little bit here and just take a long shot on the 9 ball. It'd be nice if she doesn't leave the cue on the rail, but that's about it.
What's the score? 4-3, Jessica?
Yeah, I think it is.
Yeah, they kind of slowed down a little bit.
That might have been a good time to take an extension. She really hit that pretty good. That was a really tough shot.
I was actually surprised it didn't go. It looked like it was hitting straight for it.
Okay. So that's 5-3, I believe, and I think we're going to go ahead and take a quick break.
Access to the top 4 fighters that comprise tonight's co-main and main event fights. Tonight's event has #1 contender spots and potential forced retirement hanging in the balance, and we are live for UFC 139's Fight Day. Here we go. Welcome to UFC 139's Fight Day, hosted by Boostwell. Will be here back in California. We are live at the HP Pavilion in San Jose, and tonight's fight card has major star power from a number of divisions. Our main event, Dan Henderson returning to the UFC Octagon to take on Mauricio Shogun Rua. Thank you so much for joining us for another episode of Fight Day. I'm Dave Farah.
And I'm Megan O'Leary, and what an exciting night of fights we have ahead of us. UFC fans, you are in for quite a treat. Kung Lee will make his Ultimate Fighting Championship debut tonight against the mixed martial arts legend Vanderlei Silva. And then we'll watch 2 bantamweights battle it out for the #1 contender spot when Uriah Faber faces Brian Bowles.
Yeah, and today here on Fight Day we'll bring you interviews with Shogun, Henderson, Vanderlei Silva, Kung Lee, plus our panel of MMA insiders are going to be here to give you their thoughts on the first UFC on Fox, which we're just 1 week removed from, and give you some insight into tonight's pay-per-view.
We'll also sit down with welterweight contender John Fitch and the UFC featherweight who will be taking on Jose Aldo this January in Brazil at UFC 142. Chad Mendes will be joining us. Plus, we'll hear from UFC 139 star Uriah Faber. So, whether you're watching on Yahoo, Ustream, Fox Sports, or one of our new friends at BJPenn.com, stick around. We've got a great show for you.
Yeah, and the fight card tonight is great. I love this fight card through and through. There's one fight that seems to be getting kind of lost in the mix, though. It's Rick Story and Martin Kamen. The fight's happening at 170 pounds. I love this fight. Both of these guys are dynamic contenders. They've both been right there, like maybe the number 2 or 3 spot, about to get a title shot at scene, and then they both lost. Rick Story, of course, lost to Charlie Brenneman. Martin Kampman lost 2 in a row, 2 very controversial decisions. So both of these guys really need a win tonight if they want to stay in contender status.
Yeah, and then we've got the number 1 contender fight in the bantamweight division between Uriah Faber and Brian Bowles. Now, Uriah Faber fought Dominic Cruz this July and lost. And then Brian Bowles lost his bantamweight belt to Dominic Cruz about 2 years ago. So both of these guys are very hungry for the win to get back in there and get their crack at Dominic Cruz.
Yeah, and to get you caught up in the entire thing, let's take a look at tonight's official fight card. The fighting action will begin for free on Facebook.com/UFC. You're going to see a lot of familiar faces up and down the prelim card. Tom Lawler, Gleason Tebow, Matt Brown. But one name that really stands out to me is former bantamweight champion Miguel Torres. He's looking to get back on track after dropping what some people say was a controversial decision to Demetrius Johnson back at UFC 130 in May.
And over on Spike TV, you'll get 2 more free fights. Bantamweight's Michael McDonald versus Alex Soto. And then Jason Brose takes on Ryan Bader. And we all know Bader is in desperate need of a win tonight because he lost his last 2 fights to both John Jones and then Tito Ortiz. And the latter of those losses is widely considered one of the biggest upsets in UFC history.
Yeah, before his loss to John Jones, Ryan Bader was undefeated. And then in that fight that you were just mentioning, to Tito Ortiz, he was a more than 5-1 favorite in that submission loss to Ortiz. Tonight, 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific, the UFC 139 pay-per-view card is going to kick off one heck of a fight that's sure to set the tone for the rest of the night. Stephan Bonner, Kyle Kingsbury take it to the octagon.
Then in the welterweight division, we'll see that fight we were just talking about, Martin Kampman versus Rick Story. And then the coveted spot of number 1 contender hangs in the balance in the battle of the bantamweights when Brian Bowles takes on Uriah Faber.
Then it's on to our co-main event with 2 legendary mixed martial artists, Wanderlei Silva and the UFC debut of Kung Lee.
And of course, in the main event, we've got Mauricio Shogun Hua taking on Dan Henderson. Now, Dan's back in the UFC after beating up on people in Strikeforce and Shogun bounced back from his loss to John Jones with a big win over Forrest Griffin, which we saw at UFC 134 in Rio. And both of these guys have their eyes on that light heavyweight belt. And a win tonight has them right there with Rashad Evans as the number 1 contender.
Yeah, and Dan Henderson, he's been around mixed martial arts for a long time. He's riding right now an impressive 3-fight win streak. Fedor Emelianenko, one of the W's in that column. And Megan, you actually caught up with Hendo at the Open Workouts this week to discuss what he thinks is the most dangerous part of Shogun's game and his reaction to Shogun saying that he's going to knock Henderson out.
Yeah, I still need to be careful. He's got some good kicks. I can't let him just stand on the outside and kick at me and score points. I need to stay in his face, make him fight, and not get caught with things along the way.
He's been saying a lot that he said he's going to knock you out. He feels he's going to knock you out. Do you have any response to that?
Good luck with it. I'm going to be trying to do the same thing to him. That makes for an exciting fight. But, I feel that, I control where the fight is quite a bit better than he does. So, it makes it tougher to land those big strikes if you're getting control.
Great to see Henderson back in the UFC and inside the UFC octagon tonight. I really like this fight for the reason that both of these guys, if they're aggressive, have a significantly better shot of winning. Bear in mind, this is a non-title 5-round main event, so this could potentially go for a full 25 minutes. But if both these guys go out there and be aggressive, we've seen them both have a lot of success with that in the past.
Yeah, we were talking about this earlier, Dave. It seems like people are being really tough on Shogun about this fight, kind of forgetting that he's just coming off a win against Forrest Griffin. But, we were saying he's lost to 5 fighters in the last 3 years, and he avenged 2 of those losses. So it's like, people are kind of doubting Shogun, but he's not somebody that they should doubt in the octagon.
Yeah, there's only 3 guys. like you mentioned, there's Forrest Griffin. He went back and avenged that loss in UFC 134. He lost him at Cheetah, and that was a really controversial loss in the first place. And then John Jones he did lose to, but everyone's losing to John Jones right now, so you cannot dismiss Shogun Rua. And then versus the hard-hitting Dan Henderson, tremendous main event.
Yeah, and also Shogun, when he did have those big losses, he was coming off surgeries or injuries after a long layoff out of the octagon. So that always plays a factor. Ring rust is a real thing.
Yeah, UFC 139 tonight is capped off with that fight, but throughout the entire pay-per-view card, lots of exciting fights.
Yeah, and I know all of you watching Fight Day won't want to miss a second of the action. So at the conclusion of Fight Day, you can buy tonight's pay-per-view on yahoosports.com, UFC.tv, Ustream.tv, or contact your local pay-per-view provider. And as always, the fighting action begins with those free fights on Facebook, which you can watch right after Fight Day by logging on to facebook.com/UFC.
All right, in the main event, who do you got? Text us your predictions for the main event tonight. Vote in the Boost Mobile Be Heard fan poll. Who is going to come out on top tonight in our main event?
Cast your vote for Dan Henderson or Shogun Rua by texting Hendo or Shogun to 22333. Later in the show, we'll announce the results. And of course, we always want to hear from you guys out there. Shoot us your thoughts, questions, and comments about tonight's UFC 139 card. Throughout the show, you can tweet us at Fight Day Live or leave a comment on our Facebook page at facebook.com/FightDay.
Yeah, and if we pull your comment and feature it on our broadcast, we'll send you a free Fight Day prize pack that's loaded with all kinds of cool stuff. Now joining us here on the Fight Day set in San Jose is a man that calls Northern California home. He's about 6 weeks out from his fight at UFC 141. Here to talk about that and all of the recent drama in the UFC's welterweight division is the one and only John Fitch. How you doing, man?
I'm very good. I'm very happy to be here.
Okay, well, first things first, I want to level with you at the beginning of this interview and just let you know that I was dared to see if I could get you to make the Fitch face on the show today. So I'm just going to go ahead and
It's not a too strenuous request. It's what I can make the Fitch face.
Could you do it for me?
Yeah.
Could you teach me how to do it? How do you do it?
It's half Elvis, and then you got to get a little bit of the lower lip down too. So you can't just go all upper lip.
No, 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 no.
You just upper lip, it's all Elvis. So you got to get a little bit of the lower lip. Yeah.
Let's talk about your fight at UFC 141. Johnny Hendricks.
Johnny Hendricks.
Do you like the matchup first?
He's tough dude. I like fighting tough guys. He doesn't have the biggest name to a lot of the fans, but he's really tough, and I look more towards challenging myself than putting on a big show, really.
Well, and that's kind of what I was getting to. I mean, Johnny Hendricks is a very tough guy, but those are always the most dangerous fights when you're fighting somebody that is incredibly tough and doesn't have the biggest name, because if for some reason things don't go your way, you don't get that same level of respect as if you lose to, say, a George St. Pierre.
Yeah, But on the inside, I know how tough the guys are, and I feel proud. And at the end of the day, if you're not proud of what you're doing and who you are, then nothing else really matters.
If you look at the rankings in the welterweight division, most people have you at number 2 or number 3, hovering right there in that top 5. Do you feel like there's a lack of respect when it comes to matching you up in high-profile matches because of your fighting style?
Yeah, I'm not really sure what the deal is. I go out there and I bust my ass and I win fights, and professional sport, and if it wasn't about winning, they wouldn't pay us more for winning.
Sure.
So I'm just doing what I know I do best, and I win fights.
How can you reverse this? How can you fix it? This is a problem. How do you fix it?
I don't see there's a problem. I don't think there's anything to fix. I have a big fan base. It may be developing slower than people who get a lot of first-round knockouts, but my career's going to go for a long time. I'm going to be putting in a lot more fights. I've had 15 fights in the UFC. I plan on putting in another 30. I plan on being here a long time. My fans love what I do. They give me a lot of support, and I fight for my fans.
Well, we're here in San Jose tonight for UFC 139. This is just down the road from your place, a.k.a., of course, the gym that you train at. San Jose is a great market when it comes to mixed martial arts. But talk a little bit about...
Really a fight town.
Yeah, UFC coming here. I mean, this is the first time that we've seen UFC here in many, many moons. I mean, Strikeforce had a home here for a long time, but what's it like having the Ultimate Fighting Championship here?
Hey, it's great. It's a dream come true. I mean, to be able to have this in our backyard, I really wish I was fighting on the card, but it didn't work out with the shoulder surgery and injury and everything. But, this is a fight town. I moved to California in the Bay Area because I knew this was like the mecca for fighting. And when I first moved out to AKA, I knew that even if things didn't work out at AKA, there was 20 other gyms in the area that I could probably train at. The people here love fighting. They love and support us, and I love being a part and putting on good fights for them.
Well, you mentioned coming back from that surgery. Tell us a little bit about how the rehab process has been for you?
It's been strenuous and a pain in the butt because I hate downtime, and it's been since February since I got a fight. I had like 4 or 5 months of laying off time where I really didn't get to do anything but cardio or lift, and you just don't feel the same every day if you don't get to hit somebody.
You really miss hitting people, you're saying?
Yeah, I miss hitting. Sometimes I like getting hit, I guess. A little twisted.
At AKA, you guys have a lot of top guys. Josh Koscheck has a really interesting fight coming up with Carlos Condit. How do you handicap that one?
Condit's good stand-up, slick submissions, but I always lean towards the wrestler because they dictate the pace, they dictate where the fight happens. Josh is a really good grappler. He's really got jiu-jitsu, really good jiu-jitsu defense, and power in his hands. So I think he matches up very well with Carlos. And if Carlos can't wrestle that night, he's going to have problems.
Another one of your teammates, Cain Velasquez, just 1 week ago fought, lost his belt to Junior Dos Santos. There's a lot of criticism about him not following the game plan. Do you think that's warranted, or was it too early in the fight to even tell?
Yeah, it was pretty early. It was only a minute into the fight. He wasn't picking up on Junior's rhythm or range yet. I think maybe that had a little bit to do with it too, and the long layoff. And people have to realize Cain has only been fighting. He's had 13 rounds of professional fights. He's a baby in the sport, really a baby. He's got a long way to go, and he's going to be here a long time. I think he's going to have that belt back by the end of next year, and he's going to keep it for a long time.
Let's talk about UFC 139 happening tonight here in San Jose. Main event, Dan Henderson, Shogun Rua. It's an exciting fight, and I think I was just mentioning before you came on that I think who's more aggressive in this fight wins this fight because they both have that big knockout power in their hands.
I agree, but also not just the aggressiveness, but sometimes Dan only relies on his right hand, and he's got a lot of power in that right hand.
Does he have to make...
it up, but I feel he's more successful when he mixes it up. Because if you're only doing one thing as an opponent, if my opponent's only doing one thing, it makes it really easy for me to figure out what I need to do.
Right.
If he's mixing it up, that right hand's going to slip in at some point.
John Fitch, always a pleasure to talk to you, man. UFC 141, going to be in Vegas on December 30th. In just a moment, our expert panel is going to be here to talk about some of the biggest news stories of the past couple of weeks. Plus, we're going to sit down with the California Kid, Uriah Faber, and a special piece brought to us by Harley Davidson. We're coming right back to San Jose for more Fight Tape in just a moment. Nice to have you along for the ride. We are quickly approaching the prelims of UFC 139 kicking off. Fight Day is live in San Jose for the party tonight.
And my inner fan is coming out because I seriously can't decide which fight I'm looking forward to the most. We've got Vanderlei and Kung Lee or the super fast bantamweight. Seriously, all going to be awesome.
Yeah, there's so many good fights on this card. Vanderlei Silva, if he loses tonight, this could be a forced retirement. And then on the other side, the fight before that, you got the two bantamweights that you just mentioned, Brian Bowles and Uriah Faber. They both really need wins tonight, but for a completely different reason.
Yeah, because whoever wins this fight, like we said earlier, will be the #1 contender to Dominic Cruz's belt. This is a very, very important matchup in a very stacked bantamweight division.
Yeah, and as we mentioned earlier, so many of the divisions in the UFC now are stacked that if you lose, it can literally take you years to reset and get back to that #1 contender status.
Yeah, and Dave, I know you had the opportunity to speak to Uriah about this fight and then possibly getting another chance to fight the champion, Dominic Cruz. Let's take a look at our interview with the California Kid, brought to you by Harley Davidson.
Jared Harley-Davidson with the California Kid. You're right, favorite. How you doing, man? Doing pretty good. UFC 139. You guys have a big fight coming up.
Yeah, it's going to be a big one, and facing a tough guy that not a lot of guys know, and I don't know why that is. He's kind of a quiet person, but, you know, it's pretty loud when he gets in the cage. He's a tough dude, Brian Bowles.
Is that always the riskiest type of fight for you? The type of guy that you know is really dangerous, but he doesn't have necessarily the biggest name with the casual fan? Because if you lose to a guy like that, it could be devastating.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't make it any easier. You know, you're trying to always fight the stage fights that people want to see. And, it's gonna be a great fight. And people afterwards are gonna be like so happy that they saw it, but beforehand they don't really know, you know, both guys in the fight. So he's there to make a name for himself, and he's there to win the fight dominant fashion.
You almost said Dominic there, a little Freudian slip. How do you feel about Dominic Cruz? He still holds the belt at 135 pounds. You guys feel like it's water under the bridge at this point, or do you still have something in you that makes you want to get back in there and finally settle that score with him now that it's all tied up?
Yeah, I think we're going to fight again. I mean, there's no question about that. Even the last fight was still some question, you know. I felt like it was a very close fight, and there needs to be another go to see who's the man.
Did you go back and watch it?
I've watched it a bunch of times.
Do you feel like you lost the fight watching it back, or do you feel like you won it?
It really depends on how you score the fight. You know, I feel like I did some really great things, had a couple different knockdowns, and you know, he landed a couple more punches and had a lot more takedown attempts. But I feel like I stuffed and was able to utilize defense and make him pay when he tried to shoot on me. And so, you know, it's really hard to say, to call it either way, but I definitely don't feel like I got beat up.
It's interesting because Brian Bowles and you have something in common in the fact that neither of you like Dominic. And both of you have pretty publicly said it. Does Dominic get a bad rap?
I don't know. I mean, you can only put out what you've met of a guy, and I got to know him a little bit more, and I don't think he really cares, so is he getting a bad rap? I think he's just playing it how he wants to, and that's just being himself, and some people like him, some people don't. You know, when it comes down to it, I don't really care. I don't have to spend time with a guy even 25 minutes in the cage, so, you know, that's what I look forward to.
So Harley-Davidson is doing the hometown throwdown. They're letting UFC fans bring a fight to their hometown. Your thoughts on being in front of a home audience and being able to fight in front of people that you know fully have your back, the hometown crowd?
You know, it's a great advantage because of the energy. When you have you know, the energy of a ton of people who are wishing you good luck and putting their good thoughts behind you, it helps. And it's cool that Harley's getting behind something like that. It's always great to see sponsors that are giving the fans unique chances to do something like this. And Sacramento would be the spot, man. And I think...
Wait, are you lobbying for Harley to bring the UFC back to Sacramento?
I'm lobbying for the fans to get behind it and bring it back to Sacramento. I think we've got some of the best fans in the world, and we can use some live fights around our area.
Speaking of the UFC rolling into town, for cities that have never experienced this before, you've been in that spot where you've had the whole arena of people chanting your name. How magical is that moment?
It's really neat, you know. Like I said, the energy is pretty incredible, and for someone like me, one of the reasons that I fight is just the enjoyment that everyone else gets out of it. You know, whether it be my family or my friends or people that support me or people I've never met that are emotionally behind me. It's cool to see that. Having the hometown crowd there and having everyone screaming your name and excited for you to fight is just a cool experience.
Uri Faber being challenged by Brian Bowles tonight on the main card of UFC 139. Both those guys itching for another crack at the champ, Dominic Cruz. Momentarily, we'll post some more comments from Facebook and Twitter, so drop your knowledge on us now. Right now, joining us here on the Fight Day set, we have Matt Brown, the editor-in-chief of HeavyMMA.com. As always, good to see you, Matt. Good to be here. Brian Oswald, the MMA managing editor for BleacherReport.com, a newbie to Fight Day, but nice to have you as well, my friend.
Glad to be here.
And John Morgan, the lead reporter from MMAJunkie.com, here to announce that the UFC has also been taken over by MMAJunkie.com.
No more big announcements. We're all tapped out.
You sure?
Nothing in the back pocket.
Congrats to John in there, though, man.
Yes, congratulations to you, man.
Appreciate it.
You guys have been working hard for a long time covering this sport, and it's funny to see where this sport has finally come. Last week, just 1 week ago today, we saw the debut of the UFC on the Fox network. Was this a home run? Was there some things to improve? Overall, first impressions from you, Matt?
I mean, I think the numbers speak for itself. You know, the peak's at 8.8 million. I think, John, I think you and I said on here, between 8 to 10 is kind of what we were thinking would be considered a hit. And, you know, 8.8 million peak, it fell off a lot, obviously, after the fight was over, but that's to be expected. There was a big college football game on that night between Oregon and Stanford. It was a top 10 matchup, you know, so I'm sure whether listening to the, you know, the post-fight commentary or flip over to that game, I'm sure a lot of people did. But I think the number's great, and I think it's going to be better next time out.
Well, there was a lot of critics, Brian, that said they should have put more than one fight on the air. Do you subscribe to that, or do you think they did the right thing and just kind of tease the beginning of this new exciting relationship?
I thought it was great. You know, this wasn't part of the original deal with Fox. It was kind of a freebie, right? After they signed the deal for 2012, you know, Fox wanted something. Dana White and the UFC agreed. So I think it was great. I think it was a great appetizer. I actually had a girl that I worked with who had never watched a UFC fight, and afterwards she was talking to me and she's like, "It was only 60 seconds. You know, what was that all about?" And I actually thought she was turned off by, you know, how it wasn't very long. She's like, "So when's the next fight?"
Yeah.
So that told me everything, that, you know, a 25-year-old woman is now a little bit more hooked on the UFC. It was her first time.
Well, and John, to further on that point, I mean, do you think that it was the perfect teaser? Was this a much better situation than if it had been a 25-minute kind of boring heavyweight fight, or should it have been somewhere in the middle?
I think it's definitely good that it wasn't a 25-minute snooze fest. That would have been the absolute worst-case scenario, worse than 64 seconds. I do think it's a shame that we didn't get that Henderson-Guida matchup on there. I think that would have been a great educational tool for UFC fans, for new UFC fans, I should say, that haven't seen the sport before, to really get a feel for what the sport can all be about. Yes, we can do the 64-second knockout, which is thrilling and crazy, and we can do these 15-minute high-energy matchups all the way back and forth. So I think that's a shame, but hey, man, you know, we're nitpicking here. It was a great start to this partnership. There's 7 more years that on Fox. I think we're going to see some amazing things from the UFC moving forward.
I was pleasantly surprised by Brock Lesnar as an analyst, too. I thought he did a great job.
I think he did, too. I think Dana White as an analyst is a little odd, having the, you know, the head of the league, essentially, being the one to provide analysis.
That was the one thing that was a little weird to me, but yeah.
I do think people were a little overly critical of Dana. Immediately, I didn't get to see the post-fight live. I had to wait till I got home to see it, but Twitter is a buzz of people saying, "Oh, Dana White just went out there and trashed Cain Velasquez." I didn't see it that way. Dana always shoots from the hip. He says what he feels, and he thinks, "Hey, I'm surprised Cain didn't come out and shoot right away." I think that's fair analysis, but I don't know if that's the role we want Dana White to be in. He's a promoter. He's a carnival barker. That's what we want him to do, is to try to hype things up. I don't know if he's the one guy you want doing an analysis.
Well, we do know that January 28th in Chicago is the next UFC on Fox. Any wild predictions for who may headline that one? What would be the best matchup? I mean, all the championships seem like you're tied up, don't they?
Look, I think Anderson Chan would be the one that everybody's talking about, but I don't think so. That is too big of a fight, I believe. There's money to be made. You know, obviously they said going into this, Lorenzo and Dana both said, look, we know we're giving away money by putting this thing on free TV, but this is an investment in the future. It's one thing to give away a little bit of the money. It's another thing to give away a lot of money. That's a lot of money.
I sold this one, you know, as the heavyweight championship, though. Like, I'm not 100% sold that it has to be gigantic names. Like, I think it's more about the fight itself, maybe at this point, than it is the names, because people tuning in for the first time that maybe aren't familiar, they probably just want to see a good fight, and that's probably more important to getting them hooked than the names themselves. So I think it might be a blend of, like, maybe a name and then the prelim fight being something that they expect to be a barn.
I believe Dana said he's waiting until Monday to get with Fox. Could he be waiting to see what happens this weekend? Maybe a certain 205-pounder named Rashad Evans out there hanging around looking for a fight.
Interesting.
Something to think about.
Okay, we only have about 30 seconds here. Real quickly, tonight in the co-main event, Vanderlei Silva is fighting. If he loses tonight to Kung Lee, should there be a forced retirement? Matt, you first.
I love Vanderlei Silva. I'm gonna put that out there. I grew up watching him. I think he's one of the guys that kept me so interested in the sport for so long. As with any sport, this is not just MMA. As with any sport, you don't like to see guys hang on too long. Like, it doesn't matter what it is. If it's a football player who won't hang it up, if it's a basketball player, baseball player. Especially in fighting, since it is a solo sport, it's just highlighted that much more. And, you know, I think if he does lose tonight, I'm not going to say, hey, you 100% have to retire. I would like it to be a nice recommendation, for sure.
Right.
I think part of it depends how he loses. If it's a thrilling decision where it goes to the judges and it's back and forth and it's close and he doesn't really take any damage, then I think that's one thing where he can stick around. If he takes a brutal knockout like he did against Chris Lieben or accumulates a lot of damage, I think then you kind of have to say that he has to hang it up. You know, Dana's done it with Chuck Liddell, he's done it with Crow Cop, so you know this is the next fighter, living legend.
All right, Joe, we're out of time here. Real quickly, your thoughts.
I have a dog named Benjamin still at home. If he loses, it's still time to hang it up.
Right. Coming up here on Fight Day, we're going to take you inside the open workouts. We'll be talking to a man that's stepping inside the UFC octagon for the first time tonight. Vanderlei Silva's opponent, actually. Megan Alidi has a one-on-one with Cung Le. Plus, we head to Facebook and Twitter for your feedback. It's coming up here on Fight Day.
Let's see UFC, baby! UFC!
I like John Jones because he's so explosive, less experience, you know. He's just, it's awesome.
Yeah, man, he's crazy. You know, you don't know what he's gonna do. It's just crazy. For UFC 139, and Fight Day is right in the middle of the excitement as we get ready to head into tonight's card. And before all that begins, Facebook.com/UFC is where you can see your first 3 fights of the evening, and that's going to begin at the installment, or after this installment of Fight Day wraps up.
It's about that time, all of you MMA fans. Let's see what you've been buzzing about on the underground in our mixedmartialarts.com epic thread. Today's epic thread is titled Bendo and Edgar. Who do you think? What do you think? And our favorite post came from Reagan Tapped Communism, which is probably also the greatest username ever. And he said this: I think Bendo has too much for Frankie, but you can't argue Frankie hangs tough. I'm super pumped for this battle and for Bendo getting the belt. I am also super pumped for this fight, which will be happening in Japan. Can't wait.
Yeah, it's a great fight, and every time that I think about Ben Henderson, I'm like, man, he's big, and he's strong, and he's fast, and then I think about Frankie Edgar, and I go, boy, he's not that big for a lightweight. He could possibly be fighting at featherweight, but then every single time that I see Frankie Edgar fight, he surprises me. A great example would be his last fight against Gray Maynard down in Houston. So I love this fight. I think it's a tremendous matchup, and one that Ben Henderson absolutely deserves.
Yep.
So nice work to Reagan Tapped Communism to set you up with a Fight Day prize back for that post on mixedmartialarts.com. And bear in mind, anytime that you go trolling on the UG, you may get some free stuff for it. So keep it up.
And we love hearing from our fans. So let's hear from some of you, our Fight Day viewers at home. First comment comes from Twitter, and it says, Dan Henderson for the win tonight. His wrestling will be way too much for Shogun to handle.
Look, you can't deny that Dan Henderson is a tremendous wrestler. That's part of who he is. But I don't really expect Dan Henderson's wrestling to be a big part of this fight tonight. I think they're going to stand toe-to-toe and slug it out. Whoever connects first is going to win this fight.
Yeah, and truly, my prediction is, between the co-main and the main event, in those 2 fights, we are going to get the Knockout of the Night award. I have a feeling at least one of those is going to end up in a knockout.
The next comment comes from a fan that we caught up with this week here in San Jose for the UFC 139 events.
I'm George from Sacramento. What does Uriah Faber do if he loses at UFC 139?
That's a really good question.
That's a great question.
Yeah, I mean, for Uriah Faber, this one's tough. He doesn't feel like the pressure's on him, but I personally think that his back is a little bit against the wall because he just had a crack at Dominic Cruz in July, which he was unsuccessful at getting his belt. But, you know, if he loses to Brian Bowles, you've got a whole lot of other bantamweights that are deserving of a title shot, and I think this kind of puts him at the back of the line. There's no doubt that Uriah Faber is going to have a long career. He's 32 years old, still in great shape, still can do the weight cut to bantamweight, not having a problem with that. However, now that the UFC is becoming such a stacked organization, there are many bantamweights who are going to deserve a shot after this.
All right, to directly answer that question, if Uriah Faber loses tonight and Miguel Torres wins tonight, make that fight at 135 pounds. Miguel Torres and Uriah Faber.
Yeah, and our final comment comes from Facebook, and it says, Kung Lee is a savage striker. While Wand is great, he better keep his hands up in this fight.
Yeah, that's a great comment, actually. Kung Lee is absolutely a savage striker. When you think about his mixed martial arts career, he's not the most experienced guy as an MMA fighter. He's got a record of 7-1. But all of those wins as an MMA fighter have come via TKO and KO, and as a kickboxer, he's never lost. He's 16-0, and 10 of those wins have also come via TKO and KO. He has got speed in his hands.
And the best part about Kung Lee is that his knockouts aren't just, oh, your average knockout. No, these are extraordinary knockouts, like giving Anthony Pettis a run for his money type kickboxing knockouts.
Yeah, and don't forget, though, Vanderlei Silva is no slouch either. He went undefeated for like 20 fights between 2000 and 2005. At one point was the most feared man on the planet. So Vanderlei Silva goes out there with bad intentions, too.
It's going to be a great fight. And I caught up with Kung Lee this week at the UFC Open Workouts. Take a look at what he told me about coming to fight in the biggest MMA organization in the world.
First of all, just coming over, but being asked over by Dana and the Fertitta brothers, I'm just, it's like getting that promotion, but you know, you get the CEO position. That's how I felt. You know, like I'm on top of the world. It's there. So it's great. I feel like I got a raise and a bonus at the same time.
Yeah, and you're fighting a pretty good guy named Vanderlei Silva. How'd you feel when you got that call too?
You know, Vanderlei's a damn good fighter, excuse my Vietnamese, but, you know, first it was Vitor, then Vitor got injured. It's part of the sport. It's a tough sport. But when they said they got Vanderlei, I'm excited and I'm honored to fight Vanderlei, and it's going to be a crazy shootout.
A shootout is right. I love it. Kung Lee in the UFC. He's got a fighting style that's flashy, it's lethal, and he is certainly a welcome addition to the UFC roster.
But how does Vanderlei feel about being the UFC's gatekeeper to Kung Lee? Well, I got the chance to talk to him at the Open Workouts, and he addressed his loss to Lieben and those calls for retirement we've been hearing.
It's more motivation for me, you know. I'm so good, and a lot of times this happens with everybody, you know. And I'm gonna prove that I can still fight.
Now, when you got the call to face Kung Lee, what was your reaction? Because he's so well known in the martial arts world. However, he's never fought in the UFC. So, what was your immediate reaction? They called you and said, "Would you like to face him?"
No, he's a really good fighter. He have a lot of experience to come from kickboxing, and he's the last strike force champion. He have a good background. And the styles, not my style, his style, I think we can make a good fight for the fans.
Two huge names in the MMA world, but who do you think will come out on top? Vanderlei Silva or Kung Lee? Text either Silva or Kung Lee to 22333 to cast your vote in tonight's co-main event.
Yeah, before we take a quick break here, it's time for a little bit of UFC trivia. If you call your friends tough noobs or you crush everybody in your fantasy UFC league, you're probably going to know the answer to this question before I even get done asking it. But here it is. Dave Henderson, 28 career wins, 8 career losses, 3 by the way of submission. Can you name the men who have successfully submitted Hendo?
We'll give you the answer right after the break. And coming up later in the show, Alpha Mouse star Chad Mendes will be joining us on set to discuss his title fight at UFC 142 in January against Jose Aldo. Stay right there. Fight Day will be right back.
Here's the big one, Frank.
Wanderlei Silva, Kung Lee, Dan Henderson, Shogun Hua, Uriah Faber, just some of the superstars that are making their final preparations several floors down in this very arena as we get set for UFC 139. Thank you for being a part of this episode of Fight Day.
We threw some trivia at you before the commercial break about one of the stars in tonight's main event. Dan Henderson has 8 career losses, 3 by the way of submission. Can you name the men who successfully submitted Hendo?
The answer, Anderson Silva, Big Nog, and Little Nog. Silva at UFC 82, Little Nog at Pride Total Elimination back in 2005, and Big Nog at Pride 24.
Having a little bit of trouble with Brazilians, I think.
A little bit.
Well, all right. You know we love hearing your feedback, so let's take a look at a few more comments that you've sent in to us at Fight Day. Our first comment is from Facebook, and it says, Brian Bowles is going to own California after tonight. He's going to beat Faber and be the next bantamweight contender.
Look, Uriah Faber, we know he's a tough guy. He's got an amazing record. He's 25-5, but Brian Bowles we've never seen lose. We saw one blemish on his record, and that's because he got technically knocked out or TKO'd by the doctor because he broke his hand. Now, granted, he was losing that first round to Dominic Cruz back when he lost that title. However, we've never seen Brian Bowles actually go out there and get owned. We know that's kind of Uriah's style. He likes to go out there and be aggressive as well, so it's a really interesting matchup and a very important one, too.
Yeah, absolutely. And Uriah is so fast, but, you know, Brian has that big right hand, and he also has fantastic submissions. So he's comfortable whether they're standing or on the canvas tonight.
Our next comment comes from a fan that we caught up with here in San Jose. Have a look.
Okay, I'm Johnny from Morgan Hill, and how do you feel that Henderson's going to beat Shogun?
Like we said earlier, I have to say, this is probably going to be a stand-up battle. If Henderson's going to beat Shogun, he's probably going to knock him out. I don't see this fight going to the ground at all. I mean, maybe they'll come out there and surprise us and make this a grappling match, but I don't think so. I think if Henderson's going to beat Shogun, he's going to knock him out.
Yeah, I'll stick by my original statement. Who's ever more aggressive in this fight wins this fight.
And our final comment for today comes from Twitter, and it says, Shogun is back. After his performance against Forrest, I think the Shogun of old is here to stay.
Yeah, Shogun Hua is a dangerous fighter. At one point, he was ranked the top pound-for-pound fighter in the light heavyweight division. So the question is Shogun going to be able to come in and face a competitor like Dan Henderson with that aggressive style? Will it work for him against somebody like Dan Henderson who's hard to knock out?
They did get a Colin Klein, the first part for a touchdown pass, 16 yards, so it's 10-3. Arizona State, all the bad blood in that contest. 14-50 there, very early there, but it's going to get angry, I guarantee you.
You got to be careful in the Territorial Cup now. Arizona State trying to stay alive in the Pac-12 South Division race. They got to win out. Hope UCLA loses one of their final 2.
More coming now. The Capital One halftime report brought to you by the Capital One Venture Card. What's in your wallet? I wouldn't do that with paycheck. Now I wouldn't use that single mile credit card. Hey, aren't you? Nations in a level. Today's special day, Capital One Venture Card. You earn double miles on every purchase. Impressive. Trump is a lost game. If you're not earning double miles, you're settled. For half, it's not really necessary. Get the Venture Card at CapitalOne.com. And double miles on every purchase. What's in your wallet? Cover for me. I have no business.
And I'll file from the advancing sections.
I'm sweating. I shook their hand. I'm not seeing it ever yet. 16 years later, here I am. My name is Coach Street, and I'm definitely comfortable in my own skin. Now's the time to be bold, to explore, to evolve. This is who you are. Unconventional, exceptional, only, and proud. Feel, enjoy baseball. So go ahead. Contribute, learn, belong. This is real. This is now. And this is how you change everything. This is the University of Florida. Best of the best. Continuing on with Big Ten football here at halftime. Jesse Falk, John Anderson, Nebraska at Michigan. The Huskers going to the Big House as a district in the conference for the first time ever. They had no power for the scoreboard, but that's all right. Let's get you number 16. He's got energy excited.
Leonard Robinson playing with an injured wrist suffered last week in a win against Illinois. He looked up and tearing it down for the 6th straight score.
Who's the guy who had and runs?
He had 4 total touchdowns. No player in the football bowl subdivision has had more runs of over 10 yards in the last few years. This one from 14 yards out.
And then back to pass one more time. Other end of the bag, Bean Hall in Martavius.
The Michigan defense, I think, was the star of this game. Over the court, us with just 254 total yards. They also had 14 turnovers. Michigan was 45-17.
Black is going to that fits Indiana Michigan State Spartans. Senior day there, he's Lansing for his quarter for Cousins. And he has Beavis Cunningham serious real.
Both seniors looked like the 2 scores in their final game at the Spartan Stadium with the Nebraska. Now, Michigan State is now clinched the Western Division of the Big Ten.
Especially for a team after playing one shot at the school at Penn State, Ohio State. And then head coach comes out.
XML file and launch FMLE. Okay.
Players the quarter Silas Red between the tackles.
They weren't sure if Silas Red was going to be able to go. He had a collarbone injury suffered in a loss last week against Nebraska. Here's showing you the wheels breaking off the 42-yard run.
Fourth quarter, Penn State up 6, Ohio State 4-10, Braxton Miller. He had a very nice touchdown run in this, but right here, just not going to be able to get enough out of this run. We're going to turn it over on downs, and Penn State going to hold on one last time and win at 20-14. Wisconsin on the road in Illinois. Now, Wisconsin had some trouble, at least a slow start on the road. Champaign, no different. They've got 10 to half, 17-7 still in the third quarter with Russell Wilson and football there.
And he's a touchdown maker, and 3 touchdowns on the day. Now, 5th player in football bowl subdivision history to have 30 touchdowns this season.
Caught that one, ran for 2 more. Russell Wilson, bootleg for the score, and Scotty wins it 28-17. So, that sets up big meeting Camp Randall Stadium next Saturday. Big Ten Leaders Division decide between the Badgers and Nittany Lions.
Tremendous sound from Penn State's defense to win the line of scrimmage, limit Wisconsin running the football. Wisconsin's O-line averages 322 pounds per player. Penn State's defense is going to have to live dangerously in man-to-man situations outside against Nick June, Jared Alvarez, and Tiger J. Patterson.
That game will be shown on one of the ESPN networks, TVD. More to come right after this.
I wouldn't do that. Get married? No, I wouldn't use that single miles credit card. Personally, not at all. With the Capital One Venture Card, you earn double miles on every purchase.
Your deed is so real, Larry.
I'm not your friend. If you're not earning double mileage, you're settling for half. Really? Flat time? Working at prep school? Get the Venture Card at CapitalOne.com and earn double miles on every purchase every day. What's in your wallet? I was going to say that. We are visitors, underdogs, party crashers, guests in our dim lines. But we will prevail. Because today, we are more than conquerors. The Capital One halftime report brought to you by the Capital One Venture Card. What's